What's up, guys? Max here with another episode of the ScuttleButt Show. Thanks for tuning in. Great show yesterday. That was awesome. Got a $25 donation, which I still can't get over. And I have a big show today. So today we have some normal, stories that we're going to talk about. And we also have something that's kind of a deeply personal story to me. This is going to be our fourth year talking about it on the show. But today, we've got more people listening. We're live. I feel like I can take this opportunity to explain to you guys a little bit about my experience at HSC 23 and where I did my second deployment ever, and the 14th anniversary of a crew that we lost there. So that's going to get pretty serious later on in the show, so stick around for that if you want to know a little bit more about me and my experiences in the military that made me who I am today. So I appreciate you guys being here. Hey, I want to hit you with the intro segment that we're doing now, which is the About Yesterday. So About Yesterday, we got a $25 donation, and I feel foolish because last week on Friday we got a $3 donation, and by the way, I really appreciate these. They mean a lot to me. There's a link in the description that says donation, and that'll take you to a website that kind of has some merchandise on it and a place to donate, and that's how people have donated. So I know I was like, how did you even do that? Like I sound dumb not knowing how my own program works here, but that's the answer to that. We had a great story yesterday about the transgender in the military, and that got a lot of positive feedback. If you guys have any questions, follow-up questions about that or anything, let me know. The whole segment's posted to YouTube now. I did want to tell you guys that we got a hit up from the Valor for Us, Valor number 4 Us, which is Kristen Beck's page, who I was talking about, the Navy SEAL who went who went through the gender reassignment, gender transformation after getting out of the military, and now she's an advocate. She hit me up in a comment, responded to a comment. Maybe we'll try to get her on the show. That would be awesome. So that's a little follow-up on yesterday. Now today, we've got, before I get to the heavy stuff, which is about Bullet 10, the crew we lost at HSC 23, the 4 humans who perished in a helicopter crash off the coast of California, which is very heavy, very crazy stuff. And shout out to Justin in the chat, who I was chatting about this with yesterday offline. We're going to get into that. But we have some stories, some normal stories to cover. If you guys remember yesterday, we talked about the VA, a little bit about VA healthcare. And, we're going to follow that up because there's another story here. First story of the day, former VA doctor sentenced to 25 years over molesting patients. Now, I'd love to hear your guys' experience with the VA. I have actually positive experiences with the VA, just so you guys know. I saw the VA in San Diego. I have pretty positive experience with them. But out of Charleston, West Virginia, from military.com, a former doctor at a Veterans Affairs hospital in West Virginia was sentenced to 25 years in prison on Monday after pleading guilty to federal charges that he molested male patients and violated their civil rights. U.S. District Judge Frank Volk sentenced Jonathan Yates, who's 52 years old, to the prison term and 3 years of supervised release. But, he's 52 and he says 25 years in prison. He might not ever get released, frankly. Last September, he had pled guilty in court filings to 3 counts of depriving veterans of their civil rights under the color of law, which means the crimes were committed while on duty. I guess that's applying to medical professionals. Yates worked at the Beckley VA Medical Center as a doctor of osteopathic medicine, which involves hands-on treatment through stretching and massaging. Yikes. His patients and victims were seeking to manage their chronic pain. He was arrested in April 2020, and a grand jury indicted him a month later. So here's what he did. He admitted to rubbing the genitals of 2 veterans, male veterans, it says. He temporarily immobilized the 2 veterans, one by cracking his neck and the other with the use of acupuncture needles, and then molested them while they were incapacitated. Now, what I don't understand here, let me read this last part. Yates also admitted to digitally penetrating a 3rd veteran's rectum without any medical purpose. And when it says digitally, I believe what they mean is with a finger. Oh my God. Without any medical purpose. Oh my God. So the sentence reflects the seriousness of the misconduct, the Deputy Assistant General of the Civil Rights Division, Gregory Friel, said in a statement. He described it as the despicable betrayal of his oath. He used his specialized medical knowledge and expertise to sexually abuse his own patients. He has now been held accountable. So how crazy, how gross is that? He used his medical office and trust of his patients to abuse them sexually. Now, what I'm wondering is, they were not under the effects of any kind of anesthesia, so he just used acupuncture and cracking of the neck to incapacitate them? What kind of move is that? I actually, I didn't realize that what, he could do in an osteopathic office, maybe the use of, cracking bones and using acupuncture needles to incapacitate somebody for the amount of time it would take to molest them. That's a little curious to me. I'd like to know more information about that. And that's pretty gross too. The VA has had plenty of attention paid to it over this kind of stuff. And I think it's kind of weird that he would be able to do this to so many people. I wonder how this all came out. There's definitely some more questions that I have, but justice has been served. He's going to be sentenced to 25 years in jail, where he'll likely die in jail, it sounds like, at his age and, the conditions that you're in jail. So that was an interesting story. I thought I would share that. Any kind of crazy stuff out of the VA, the Veterans Affairs healthcare stuff, I always want to share with you guys. Let me know if you have any VA healthcare experiences, any VA healthcare stories you want to share with me that might be interesting for the story. So let me catch up on the chat here. Justin, welcome. Earl, welcome. Pickle, what's up? Thank you. Everything is great on my end. I appreciate you being here as always. Earl, yeah, are you doing your boot runs? Let us know. And then Dead as Dillinger, hey, what's up? Thanks for tuning into the show. I appreciate you checking us out. I believe, I'm guessing I know who you are. I won't say your name. But if you are who I think you are, just give me a thumbs up or something like that so I know who you are. And if you want to say who you are, there's people in the chat who would know you by name. So thanks for tuning in. We're going to cover a couple more stories, and then we're going to talk all about HSC 23. So, we cover a bunch of stories in here as it goes about treason and the trustworthiness of the military and selling secrets and security clearances and stuff. But here we go. Air Force veteran sentenced in scheme to offer information to Russia. A West Virginia woman who once served in the Air Force was sentenced to more than 11 years in federal prison Monday for planning to offer top-secret information from the National Security Agency, the NSA, to the Russian government. Elizabeth Jo Shirley, 47, pled guilty last year as part of a plea agreement to 1 count each of willful retention of national defense information and international parental kidnapping. Shirley held a position that required the highest level of trust. Bill Powell, who is a U.S. attorney, said, when she committed these crimes, she not only broke that trust, she potentially endangered the very people who employed her and her neighbors. National security is one of her highest priorities. Shirley deserves her sentence and not a day less. Prosecutors said Shirley of Hedgesville leased a storage unit and kept a document without authorization relating to national defense that outlines intelligence information regarding a foreign government's military and political issues. Shirley worked on assignments with the NSA while serving in the Air Force. So I've been meaning to talk about this on the show, but just so you guys know, there's a and I'm going to very, very blanket statement this, keep it very simple for now. But the way that things get classified in the military as, confidential, secret, top secret, and with accessories, all depends on if they were to be, in the hands of the wrong person, what type of damage could that do? Could that do detrimental damage to the national security of the United States? Could that do a small amount of damage? Could that endanger people's lives? Those are the standards by which they classify things. So if something's classified top secret, then that thing could do detrimental harm to the United States and its interests and personnel if in the wrong hands. So just a little very, very brief background on that. So it looks like this all started as a domestic problem, which if you wonder why when you get a security clearance, they do a background check, it's because people who have major problems with debt, with domestic issues, parental things, can be subjected to they're more susceptible to the influence of foreign bad actors if they can say, hey, we can make all these problems go away for you. We can get your child in your hands. We can make all your money problems go away. All we want to know is what is the effective range of the Predator drone or something like that. So from 2001 to 2012, Shirley held various positions with the Navy's Office of Naval Intelligence, the Departments of Defense and Energy, and the National Cyber Investigative Joint Task Force, and at least 5 different cleared defense contractors. Wow, so she was all over the place. And she held top secret level security clearances at various times. Shirley took her 6-year-old daughter to Mexico in July 2019 after she failed to return the child on an agreed-upon date to the girl's custodial father, who was the primary residential parent, and his current wife in West Virginia. Prosecutors said Shirley went to Mexico with the intent of contacting Russian government representatives to request resettlement in a country that would not extradite her. This is exactly the type of thing that they look for in background checks to make sure that you're not going to be susceptible to before they give you a top secret security clearance, which is so crazy. This is like the definitive example of somebody who was susceptible and then got, they collected on her and then they tried to exploit her for national defense secrets. Like, this is textbook. This is textbook tradecraft by whoever the Russian operative was. So they figured her out, and she was caught. So she was arrested in August 2019 at a hotel in Mexico City, and the girl was returned to her father. So that's a happy ending. Authorities said the NSA document was located that month in a storage locker in Martinsburg, while messages Shirley had drafted to Russian government officials along with other classified information were found on her electronic devices. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? That is kind of bonkers, isn't it? Like, that's straight up like espionage type stuff. So very interesting stuff there. I want to share that story with you guys and give you a chance to see a perfect example of what makes people susceptible to being influenced by foreign governments, and that's why they take the security clearance investigation so seriously. That's why debt, divorce, things like that are looked at very, very strongly when you're going for a top secret or higher security clearance. So let's catch up on the chat really quick. Earl says, they're going pretty good. I think I'll be able to run further than I ran in my sneakers once I get fully used to them. That's interesting, Earl. I don't know about that. You should be able to run further in sneakers with more comfort, but it's good that you are putting the miles in. I'll just see how much faster I can run my IST next week. Justin, okay, so you guys are having a little sidebar chat. Glad to hear things are going good. If boots or barefoot shoes, take your time to prevent injury. Seen a lot of people go hard too fast. Currently running them 2 to 3 times a week. Okay, cool. So, you know, we've been following Earl's journey, running, getting ready for his PSTs, you know, as we go through the live show here. It's nice to chat with you guys. Don't overdo it. You don't want to set yourself up for stress fractures when you're in training. So the problem with overtraining before boot camp or selection or whatever you're training for is that once you get there and the stress really gets put on, then you risk stress fractures because you overtrained prematurely. So make sure you're following some kind of maybe a validated program, maybe a professional running program, so that way you don't risk any stress fractures or anything like that, especially when you're changing shoes. If you start running boots and pants, you're even more likely to get things like stress fractures, blisters, and other foot conditions. Like, what's the one where you just have pain? Plantar fasciitis, things like that. And that'll hard down you for training. So just be a heads up of that. So, okay, one more story here. One more story, interestingly. We've got the Pentagon to probe possible war crimes committed by troops downrange. And when I read this, I was like, I think about this all the time. I'm going to explain it a little bit, but let's check this out. So the Defense Department's Inspector General's office wants to know what steps U.S. CENTCOM and U.S. Special Operations Command are taking to reduce potential law of war violations when conducting operations. In a January 25th memo, the Inspector General's office, IG, announced that it had launched an evaluation into how well CENTCOM and SOCOM are abiding by the Pentagon's Law of War program, which is meant to ensure that troops and civilian contractors comply with the U.S. military's interpretation of the laws governing armed conflicts. We will also determine whether potential U.S. CENTCOM and U.S. SOCOM law of war violations were reported and reviewed in accordance with DoD policy. The memo, which did not indicate what prompted this review, was sent to the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Undersecretary for Defense, heads of CENTCOM and SOCOM, the Defense Department's General Counsel, and others. While the evaluation covers the entire CENTCOM theater of operations, so Iraq, Afghanistan, everywhere in the U.S., it appears to be focused on Afghanistan. The memo says the IG office will conduct its review with the U.S. Forces, Afghanistan, and CJ SOTF, Combined Joint Task Force Operation Inherent Resolve. Inherent Resolve is the operation against ISIS. In September, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo announced sanctions against International Criminal Court officials who were investigating whether U.S. service members had committed war crimes in Afghanistan. Oh, man. According to the prosecution, there is a reasonable basis to believe that since May 2003, members of the U.S. Armed Forces and CIA have committed war crimes of torture and cruel treatment. I guess in addition, outside of the boundaries of what is already authorized, like waterboarding. So in September, former Secretary, ad popped up. It always makes me lose my place. Outrages upon personal dignity and rape and other forms of sexual violence pursuant to a policy approval by the U.S. authorities. The prosecution mainly relies on the findings of the U.S. Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, the U.S. Senate Armed Services Committee, and the U.S. Department of Defense. Defense officials had little to say about the evaluation when contacted by Task and Purpose. This is a Task and Purpose article, by the way. The DoD OIG is conducting planned oversight work consistent with its normal protocols. There is no additional information to offer regarding the project, and we do not have a timeline for completion, the IG office said. A spokesman for SOCOM declined to comment, and CENTCOM spokeswoman referred to questions about the evaluation to the Pentagon. It's unclear whether the Inspector General's office is connected to the prominent cases of troops in Iraq and Afghanistan, such as Eddie Gallagher, who was famously charged with murder, but got found not guilty of that. Trump also it says, ordered the dismissal of murder charge against Army Major Matthew Golston with a full pardon. This one was a little bit more controversial and did involve the UAP, the United American Patriots Program, which we did talk about yesterday. Golston admitted to killing an unarmed Afghan man in 2010 because he believed the man was a Taliban bomb maker responsible for the deaths of 2 Marines. And Trump pardoned former Army First Lieutenant Clinton Lawrence, again, very highly involved with the UAP, United American Patriots, who had served 6 years of a 19-year prison sentence after being convicted of ordering his troops to open fire on 3 unarmed Afghan men in 2012, 2 of whom were killed. A former senior defense official told Task and Purpose that the IG office review should not be construed as information that U.S. troops may have committed war crimes. The U.S. military makes more of an effort to abide by the law of armed conflict than any other force, said the senior defense official who spoke on condition of anonymity due to the sensitivity of the issue. So, you know, I've got a lot of thoughts on this, one of which is the idea that when you are, you know, post-military service, your actions overseas are always constantly potentially under review. Every sworn statement, every shooter statement, every post-mission report or, you know, post-mission product is always, you know, archived and available for review. If somebody 10 years from now goes and says, you know, we committed all these crazy war crimes and we did all this stuff with our platoon, that's all going to become, you know, under strict criticism and review, and it's all would be admissible in court and all that stuff. And you know, what I think about all the time is, like, I have these like flashbacks to Afghanistan, Iraq, where I think, like, man, I can't believe that shit happened like that. You know, that was crazy. And I almost, like, even though I don't feel like I ever did anything that even came close to something that would be against the law of armed conflict or anything like that, that's not what I'm saying. I just think, like, I get like this this overwhelming feeling of, you know, this is like PTSD, depression type stuff of, like, dread, you know, like this feeling of dread where it's like something really bad is about to happen, like something really, really catastrophic is imminently about to happen to me. And I start to have these, like, feelings of, like, oh my God, we did all these things in Iraq, we did all these things in Afghanistan, you know, is somebody going to be out to get me? Is like, I've had all these people, you know, swear on their life that they're going to kill me one day when I did my detainee ops deployment, all these things. And I just feel like sometimes that hits me and I'm like, like a panic attack of this imminent danger that I'm in. And that's some of this mental health stuff that I deal with post service. And when you see stuff like this of people who maybe do have things that they might feel guilt over or actually believe that they did something wrong, they have to, you know, now live with that forever, and that could come back to haunt them at any point in time. Like I said, I don't feel like I did anything even close, but I still get that dreadfulness feeling. It's a PTSD related thing as far as my knowledge of the issue goes, as to why you would have these types of feelings, and it just comes on very all of a suddenly out of the blue, and can be very traumatic. So for veterans out there dealing with this kind of, like, guilt or sudden fear or anxiety that comes out of nowhere, these panic attacks, the idea of all of a sudden realizing you did all this crazy stuff in war zones can be pretty intense. So I just want to bring that story up to you guys, and let's catch up with the chat. So you guys have been talking about, you know, all kinds of stuff over here. So Earl contracted SB here, and make sure you get some mobility days in over the weekend. So you guys are giving fitness advice. That's good. Justin says, is waterboarding still illegal, in quotes? I would have to double check. I thought it was still an authorized use of questioning, but let me maybe do some more research. And if anybody knows for sure, let me know. Rachel, hey, welcome to the chat, Rachel. Glad to see you here. I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well also. And then Kilo says, Gallagher's story is pretty deep. There was some pre-existing tension in his unit. So let me tell you guys, the reason I'm kind of quiet about the Eddie Gallagher story is I actually, I know a lot of those people. I wasn't on that deployment, but I was almost on that deployment. I would have been right there with those guys if I had gone on that deployment. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't. And I have some, you know, I've talked to people about it, and I know the accusers, and I know I've met the accused. And so I keep my kind of opinions reserved to myself about it, so you won't hear me talk much about it. But that story is pretty crazy, especially all the stuff that happened with the prosecution and NCIS and all that stuff, and the fact that the president got involved and the chief of naval operations was involved, and the admiral in charge of all the SEALs was stepped down. I don't know if how forcefully he stepped down, but he ended up losing his, not losing his job, but, retiring, and all kinds of crazy stuff out of the Eddie Gallagher case. And I think that, he's writing a book, and maybe there'll be a movie, something like that, that'll tell his side of the story. But remember, he was accused by like 5 or 6 people, and they're all out there somewhere in the world. He also name dropped them. He came out with a video on Instagram. I saw it on Instagram where he name dropped all of his accusers and where they're currently stationed and pictures of them. And I can tell you, he outed them legitimately, and that's kind of freaking insane. So he's obviously looking to clear his name or advocate for himself beyond just being found not guilty. And it's interesting to see where that's going to go. So let me, listen, we're about to get into something really serious. We're already 20 minutes into the show. And I wanted to take a second before we do to show you guys something that I thought was, we're going to just have a brief minute of fun before we get into something serious, because I saw this and I really wanted you guys to see it, which is I've got a video here that is, it is what it is. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's the Navy Band. And let's watch the Navy Band perform a pretty epic version of a Taylor Swift song. And when I saw this, I thought you guys just might want to see it. So let's watch this real quick, and then we're going to get into the main subject of today, which is the 14th anniversary of Bullet 10. And we'll switch tone really quick, but this is just something to watch.
I remember when we broke up.
The first time?
Saying this is it, I've had enough. We hadn't seen each other for a month when you said you needed space.
What?
Then you come around again and say, baby, I miss you and I swear I'm gonna change.
Trust me.
Remember how that lasted for a day? I say,
I hate you.
We break up, you call me.
I love you. Oh, hey, oh, hey.
We called it off again last night.
Oh, hey, oh, hey.
This time I'm telling you,
we are never, ever, ever getting back together. We are never, ever, ever getting back together. You go talk to your friends, talk to my friends, talk, then talk to me. But we are never, ever, ever getting back together.
I'm really gonna miss our little fights, and you calling at me screaming that I'm right, and you hide away and find your peace of mind with some TikTok video that's much cooler than mine.
Oh, hey, oh, hey.
You called me up again tonight.
Oh, hey, oh, hey.
This time I'm telling you.
And I knew you were trouble when you walked in. Trouble!
We are never, ever, ever getting back together. We are never, ever, ever getting back together. You go talk to your friends, talk to my friends, talk, then talk to me. But we are never, ever, ever getting back together like ever.
I just thought that was important for you guys to see. And I hope that you agree that was worth it. So it was something that I saw, and I listened to the first 30 seconds, and I was like, we have to listen to this on the program today, the whole thing, and that was great. Ayo Nixo, what's up, dude? Welcome to the chat. Thanks for being here. Says, this is the most Naviest thing I've ever seen. I 100% agree that little sea shanty version of We're Never Getting Back Together was so epic, and I'm going to put it on my workout playlist, I think. Rachel, your reaction, oh goodness, says it all. Justin, send me a link to that Lion King one. We'll watch it tomorrow maybe. Dave says, it sounds like software wrote this. That's so funny. I totally see what you're saying. Justin, I'd love to hear your story about the Navy band from deployment. And Kilo says she needs to ditch this band and go solo. You know, it's funny because I would like to see something like would you guys like this video? If you would like to see something like Navy Band versus Pentatonics, something like that, it would be really, really cool. So I think that, if you don't know, military musicians, professional, rated military musicians are, they're very professionally trained artists. Like, they are able to read music, write music, study music. They're talented. They play multiple instruments. They are tested on their skills, and they have a lot of cool, perks that come along with their job, like joining as an E6 or an E7 as enlisted. They have a great gig, frankly. That's it, to be totally honest. Let me do something really quick, which is pull up. I'm switching gears now, okay, guys, just so you know. If you see it on your screen right now, we're looking at the patch from HSC 23 Det 3, the One-Eyed Jacks, commemorating that deployment. And this is what we're going to talk about for the rest of the episode. So let me drop this really quick because I need to give you guys some background, okay? We're switching gears completely now into something pretty serious, a personal story. If you guys have expressed interest that you are, you want to talk about this type of thing, my history, my background, and what makes me me, this is a big part of that. So let's go back to what HSC 23 is. HSC 23 is a Navy helicopter squadron that at the time had H-60 Sierra helicopters. I think now they might be doing some stuff with Fire Scout or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, or just correct me in general. But anyway, they fly H-60 Sierra helicopters. Their mission is search and rescue and movement of supplies. And I am a plank owner of that command, as are many other people. A few other people in the chat are probably plank owners. So what does that mean? Okay, how did I get in HSC 23? So as a junior E4 in the military, in the Navy, my very first helicopter command was HSC 23. I was assigned, given orders to HSC 23. But at the time, there was no HSC 23. It was a pre-commissioned, a pre-com squadron. So me and a handful of other people, a dozen other people, checked into these shacks, these little I might freak. I'm just realizing now I might cry telling this story. These shacks, these little trailers outside of another squadron called HSC 21. HSC 21. So we go into these little shacks, and there's nothing to do. There's no helos. There's no tools. There's no programs. There's not even people. There's not even personnel. We just check in to this pre-commissioned command, and we're trying to figure out what to do. But HSC 21 had some helicopters, and we're all trying to get to know each other. We're in the HSC 23 shack. There's a few of us, and nobody knows what to do. HSC 21 let us work on a couple of their helicopters every now and again, here and there. Actually, funny story. The first time I ever worked on a helicopter, the first time I ever saw a helicopter up close and personal, it was to go bust rust, okay? We're going to go bust rust or do corrosion control and prevention, okay? So if you guys don't know, a big part of working on aircraft is corrosion control, especially aircraft that fly near the ocean or are, permanently parked right next to the ocean. Salt water causes massive corrosion problems. So we would go out there with a wire brush, which is like a toothbrush, but instead of soft bristles for your teeth, it's metal wire bristles. And what you do is you go out there and you take this and you rub off the rust from like screws and stuff. And if it's too rusted, you'll replace it. But you just clean off the rust. Then you make sure it's all clean, no more rust. You spray paint it and you put on some CPC, corrosion prevention compound. Maybe this is ringing some bells for some people. And it's my first time ever working on a helicopter ever. First time ever on one. And HSC 23, the squadron that we're all going to be a part of, doesn't have any helicopters. There's an HSC 21 helicopter, like I was saying. So if you can picture a helicopter, they have the main body and then back, and they have like tail pylon. Let me pull up a Google here of a H-60 Sierra. So there's the tail rotor pylon, and you can climb up that, and you can get on there and do some maintenance. Because that's where the whole tail rotor is. So let me show you guys this really quick. This will be the easiest way for me to show you, okay? Instead of babbling. So if you look up on your screen on this image here on the top right, where the tail rotor is here on the left, you can climb up of this. And on the tail rotor, there's something called pitch control links, and they were rusted. And so I have to climb up and clean the rust off the pitch control links. Okay, that's what I'm doing. I had never been on a helicopter before. I put on my helmet. I climb up the tail rotor there, and I start cleaning the rust off this thing. I don't even know what I'm doing, honestly. I have no clue what I'm doing. There's one supervisor there. He was an AE2 at the time. He was a great dude, slicked back hair, high speed. He ended up getting out, going into the reserves, making chief. He was just an epic, smart dude. And he's got me up there. And I'm up there on the tail rotor, and all of a sudden, the tail rotor starts to spin. And I'm like about to fall. I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to fall off the helicopter. And I in my mind, I'm like, I broke on my first day ever being on a helicopter. I broke it. And now I'm about to fall on it, onto the back part, the stabilator, the horizontal part back here. Break that. I'm going to get kicked out of the Navy here. And I'm like, help me. I need help. I'm in a bad way. Please come help me. And what had happened was somebody on the main rotor here, the big blades above where this guy is sitting here, if you guys are looking at the picture, had started spinning the main rotor with me on the tail. And these are connected. So every one time that the top part here spins, the back part spins 4 times. So I'm getting all this like force of the top part spinning, and I'm hanging on for dear life. I'm like this, hanging on for dear life. And that was and I think that I'm breaking it, and it turns out it was just somebody else who had not paid attention that I was up there. And that's my very first day, my very first experience on these helicopters, and us trying to figure each other out at HSC 23. So as time goes on, we get some more, responsibilities. We start working together, doing little jobs, starting to get little qualifications, and eventually we get our own building. So we get our own building at HSC 23, and we head over there across the flight line, back in the back of Naval Air Station North Island, San Diego, California. And it's this big hangar, this big, great hangar. We've got a commanding officer. We've got, different work centers, but it's just an empty building. Like, we've got nothing. We're about to get 2 helicopters, and we've got nothing. So people are in there. People are printing out pubs, thousands of pages of paper. I remember one of the things that I was doing first was, as a junior, E4, AT3, out there, going through tri-walls or big giant cardboard boxes of tools, just full of tools, like just randomly strewn about tools that were just given away. They were like old tools from other places. And I'm digging through there trying to find different tools to put into different toolboxes. And I'm like, okay, I need 1 of these, 2 of these, 4 of these. Stab myself with a tool here. And I need, and then 1 of these. And then all of those get etched. So like, this is from toolbox 3 and this is from toolbox 4. So then I go through and I etch them, and I get these empty, blank toolboxes, and I have to go, cut out holes in all these toolboxes and make silhouettes of what the tools look like and put them in there. It's this whole thing. If you know anything about aviation, naval aviation, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm doing this whole thing, and it's me and, the 20 other people that we're working with, a very small group of people. It becomes a very tight-knit crew. Very, very tight-knit crew. Like, we're all going through this together. We get our first helicopter. We get our first pilots. We get our air crewmen, which we have in the chat right now. We've got, Dennis Dillinger. We've got Justin out there. Plank Owners Unite. Yep. And Dennis Dillinger was still on RIMPAC at the time. Got there in October 06. So that was right around commissioning time. Justin says, not nothing. The ops room had an old kegerator that didn't work and lots of rodents. Yep. So there was a lot of cleaning up to do. We had to paint all the walls, our squadron colors. We had to do all this painting. We had to paint our logo on there. And I remember, we had a great commanding officer. His name was Bob Weissenfels. And Bob Weissenfels was like just a stud. Okay. This guy was a stud. He was U.S. Naval Academy. Fact check me if I'm wrong here. U.S. Naval Academy, like captain of the football team, one of the captains of the football team. He was on the U.S. Olympic team for bobsleigh. He was an Olympian, okay, and he just had the look. He just had the look like a cartoon character. Like, if you could draw a cartoon character, what they would look like of just like an American patriot, it's this guy, okay? So he's in there. And he's got us doing command PT, working hard. And he broke a kid's femur playing basketball. Okay, so So, and, you know, he loved to play basketball. So that's where I'm going with this. And I remember one of the first things in the first, you know, couple weeks or months of us being in operation, he's like, get these helicopters out of the hangar. We need to make a basketball court. And it really set the tone. He's like, let's get these helicopters out of here. We need a basketball court in the hangar. We need that right now, okay? We need the hoop right in the middle. We need a three-point line. We need a free throw line, okay? And we need to be playing basketball. That's what we need to do. Let's put the helicopters away for a minute. Let's make a basketball court. And there was this, you know, so we make the basketball court. You know, we're working hard. We're having a good time. We were so small. We were so small at the time. Everybody knew one another. It was so cool. Like, we would go to work like a family, you know? It was awesome. It was great. And we're starting to make detachments and, you know, Det 1, Det 2, Det 3. We're starting to talk about what the future is going to be, how we're going to deploy, how we're going to get all this. Like, we're going from a pre-com squadron with nothing to deploying people a few months later. And so it's a lot of work, too, and we're accomplishing all this stuff, and it's great. So we're out playing basketball one day, and there was this dude. I already reached out to him, and I said, hey, Ed, I want to tell this story. Is it cool with you if I tell this story? And do I remember it correctly the way it went down? So Ed was like 4'10", this guy. He was also an AT, and he was like 4'10", and we're out there playing basketball, and Bob Weissenfels is like guarding Ed, and at one point like checks him, you know, like a basketball check, and Ed hits the ground super hard. He just gets floored, right? And it's not even close. He's tall, he's muscular, he's the man, right? And then Ed he's the man also, but he's short, you know, small stature dude. And Bob levels him onto the ground. And it's like, oh shit, what is happening here? And it's like, what's next? Like, what's about to happen? And Bob says to Ed, Bob Weistenfeld says, no free rides. And that was it. That was like, the tone was set at that point. I remember that being like just a legendary moment for the squadron of like, okay, we kind of know where we're at. We kind of know what we're dealing with here. No free rides. Like, let's get after it. You know, like that was the way we rolled, and it was awesome and it was great. You know, after a while, I worked in the gi dunk for a little while. I remember getting assigned to the gi dunk, and my job became like stacking sodas and selling snacks and things like that. And, you know, everyone had to do like their own little thing. They're cranking. Some people went to the tool room. Some people went to the hazmat locker. Some people went to the line shack. We had a really cool line shack. We had an avionics shop, a mech shop, an airframer shop, maintenance control. Dennis Dillinger says, I hated that basketball court. It got in the way of maintenance. That's it, though. It got in the way of maintenance, but they were like, move all the helicopters. We're playing basketball this morning, like something like that. It was just kind of a cool, almost surreal environment, you know? And then, you know, things started to ramp up. We got a Det going out to Kuwait, air ambulance mission. So we've got people, after a few months, we all figure out where we're going to be stationed. We get a Det out to go do air ambulance in Kuwait. They're moving people in and out of Baghdad, Iraq, wherever, getting them medical treatment. Air ambulance missions where they would have injured personnel and they have to get them, you know, from point A to point B. So our squadron was responsible for some of that. Big time, you know, broad stroke oversimplification. We had my Det, which was Det 2, getting ready to go out on a ship called the USNS Bridge, which is, I didn't even know what a USNS was, U.S. naval ship, and that's Merchant Marines or MSC, Military Sea Lift Command. That's a ship that's run entirely by civilians. The commanding officer is a civilian, the XO is a civilian, the whole crew, the boatswain's mates, everybody's a civilian. The only military on the ship was us, the Helo Det. So there was like 20 of us, pilots, air crew, and maintainers, 12 maintainers, an air crew, and some pilots, some experienced pilots, and some brand new pilots. And then we had our maintenance. We had 2 chiefs, and that was it. And the whole story about me and that deployment is going to be on my personal story podcast that I'm working on, that I'm going to figure out how to distribute in the coming weeks. But I'm not going to tell the whole story about that right now. But the reason I'm bringing up all this backstory and everything to get into this is because I want you guys to understand the community that we were as a brand new squadron of proud plank owners in this new community. Like, it's pretty uncommon that you get to be a plank owner in the Navy. That's really special. you get that for life. Like the squadron's going to have the names of all of us who are plank owners for life, forever, until that squadron's decommissioned. And we are, we take ownership in what that squadron becomes for permanently, and it's kind of a beautiful thing. So we're Det 2. Yep. So we're Det. Yeah, I see you, Dillinger. And crazy things started to happen with Det 2. And the one crazy thing that happened was there was a lot of personnel movements happening with this brand new command, with these brand new people checking in, getting immediately put on detachments. And we had a guy assigned to our detachment, AW1 Corey Hellman, and let me pull this back up. So he was assigned to our detachment. He was going to be an air crewman on our Det. He was going to be like the lead air crewman. And we had done some training together. We had done some meetings together. And this is around the time that we're getting ready to deploy. And so myself and another guy who, his name was Devin Liss. He's passed away now too, since then. He and I fly up to Washington State to go meet the USNS bridge, and we sail on the bridge down to San Diego to meet our Det. A couple people went in like the ADVON, the advanced component that goes up there. Our job was to make sure that the spaces were set up. We started getting the hangar bay cleaned up, toolboxes, put together, make sure our gear had all arrived, because we had already sent the gear out on these giant cardboard boxes, the tri-walls I was talking about earlier. So we go there, we're unpacking gear, we're playing a lot of PlayStation, honestly, and sailing down from Washington to San Diego was a lot of fun. Me and Devin just hung out. We went to the gym, we went to the galley and ate food, and we cleaned up the hangar bay, and we waited for our Det to get there. It was like the very beginning of January. It was the first days of January. We actually deployed a little early. We surged. We were part of the surge in Iraq, so we deployed a little early. We, our strike group was part of the surge, and Corey was meant for our Det, but something had happened. Maybe somebody in the chat can help me with what exactly happened. There was a school he didn't have, or that they wanted to send him to. There was some trainee he didn't have, and he got pulled from our detachment on like the day we were deploying, within a few days. And he was actually, and now again, correct me if I'm wrong, people who are out there who can help me with the facts here. He actually was part of the helicopters that flew our personnel flew out on some helos, and he actually dropped off a couple of the people, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he was supposed to be there with us on that Det, and he got pulled at the last minute to go to a school. He was going to go to training and then deploy with Det 3. So Det 3, he got switched from Det 2 to Det 3, and we got somebody else. And so we set sail on our deployment, and we're off on our way, steaming out to the Gulf, to the Middle East. So it's the beginning of January. We're on our way to the Middle East, and we're doing good. We're flying missions. We're doing training. We're doing vertical replenishment underway, where we're moving supplies from ship to ship. So Justin says he was originally a dry crewman on 53s or H3s and had to go to rescue swimmer school, but never went to HSC3 for flight training on that platform. Got it. Okay, so we had to go to rescue swimmer school. Interesting. That sounds right. For some reason, I was thinking it was like weapons school or something like that. But okay, so rescue swimmer school. And we were all set. I remember him and I having a conversation one day. He was like, "Hey man, we can be like workout buddies on the ship or whatever. Like, you seem like a cool dude." We had only met each other, a few times at this point. I was like, "Yeah, dude, you seem like a cool guy too. Well, I love to work out. We'll go, work out on the ship. We'll hang out. It's gonna be a good time." And we were all excited about that Det. It was like we're going on the bridge. We're going on the USNS. That's going to be a super fun time. That's going to be a fun detachment. Justin said one of the pilots didn't like his EP skills in the simulator and then booted him, and they were going to send him to HSC3. Oh, got it. Okay. So he graduated rescue swimmer school right before 23. Okay, got it. So anyway, he was slated to be Det 2. He got pulled off Det 2 at the very last second, goes on to Det 3. And we're flying, we're out there flying missions with our Det, with our people. And then I remember one day we're and we're having a good time. Like, we're having fun. We're excited. We're cruising out. We're like having fun with our operations. We want to see like who can be the best chocker and chainer. We're seeing who wants to go hook the most cargo underneath the helo and all this stuff. It was just a good time. Tight knit crew. And then I remember, it was January 26th, and we're flying a mission, and our OIC, who was a great guy, just an incredible leader, sailor, pilot, incredible dude. We're flying, and they end flight ops early. I remember them ending flight ops early, and the helo comes in and lands. We chock and chain, and nobody knows what's going on. We're all still, having a good time. And they shut down the bird, and they're like, hey, we're going to have a muster in the hangar bay. And they get us all together. And he tells us that Det 3 had a crash. Our squadron, HSC 23, Det 3, had a bird go down off the Bonham Richard. And we didn't know, too much at the time. But it was obviously bad. He was in tears. You got to realize the reason I'm telling you all this stuff about how close we were and what it was like being there in the beginning and being plank owners and the basketball court thing and, building toolboxes and going and building the Gidunk and painting the walls and the pride that we had in our squadron was in this sense that we started from nothing a few months earlier. A few months earlier that summer, we started with literally nothing. And we had grown into a, 3 detachment, 8 helicopter having squadron. We did it all on our own. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little choked up. And we find out that a bird went down, and we don't know who is on it. We don't know what their status is. And so we shut down flight operations. And as the day goes on and we get more information, it starts to come out what's going on, and we find out that it sounds like the whole crew was killed in that crash, and we don't know how to take it. I remember, I wish I could, tell you with 100% assuredness what happened that day or that next day and the next day. I don't remember exactly, but I remember us, we got back to work. We didn't spend a lot of time. We didn't spend a lot of time not flying. We had to figure out what we were going to do, but we come to find out that day or the next day that Corey Hellman. Let me just pull up the thing here, the picture here, so you guys can see this. So this is the USS Bonham Richard HSC 23. The One-Eyed Jack's det patch here. Corey Hellman, Chris Will, Adam Dyer, and Laura Menke, who were the pilots, all were killed. And Laura Menke, Chris Will and Adam Dyer, I knew at the squadron, but they were in workups when we were in workups, and I never really got to know them. I never really got to know them that well, but I knew Corey, and I knew Laura Menke, Lieutenant J.G. Menke. We actually had watched together a couple times, Lieutenant Menke. So at HSC 23, on the at the squadron, on the second floor on the side, we had our quarter deck, and you would stand an overnight watch, an overnight duty. I think it was 24-hour duty, and part of that would be staying at the squadron overnight to make sure nothing happened. I ended up having duty with her a couple times, and we would sit up there together and chat, and we got to know each other. I was telling her how I wanted to, maybe go to college, maybe commission someday, and she was helping me kind of navigate that a little bit. She was very, very, putting herself out there to be helpful and to be a good officer and to be a good leader. And she was working hard at becoming a good pilot. And one thing I remember about her was her and her husband he was in the Navy, I think. If somebody in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong here, he was a submariner stationed somewhere else at another command somewhere across the country, and they had got married and they had never lived in the same place together. But he had orders to move to San Diego, and they were going to be finally co-located and finally able to be living together for the first time as a married couple, but I don't think that ever happened. I think that this crash happened before that happened for them, and it's been 14 years, and I think about me and many others think about this day every year that it comes around. And so I've relived the events on the show a few times. Never this in depth though, never really explaining what it was about HSC 23 that made that squadron and those people so special. And I'll talk more about it in the future. But and I'm just looking at the patch right now, which I hope you guys can see. Let me read you a little bit of information about who these people were. So Lieutenant Adam Dyer was 28 years old. He was from Louisiana. His parents were David and Stephanie, and his sister was Lindsay. He graduated from Louisiana State University with a degree in psychology and flew Navy relief missions in his home state after Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Petty Officer First Class Corey Hellman, he was 27 years old. His wife was Tanya. He was a search and rescue swimmer. He was stationed in Bahrain when he met his wife-to-be, who, by the way, was an NFL cheerleader for the Chargers. She was for somebody else, and then she was for the Chargers. And she was visiting his base during a USO tour, and he somehow, I don't know if I ever got the whole story, but he somehow managed to get her number or whatever and married her, which is, what a sailor thing to do. His hobbies included photography and golf. Lieutenant J.G. Laura Menke was 26 years old from West Hills. Her husband, Jeff. She earned a degree in physics at the University of San Diego. She was a Brownie troop leader and supervised a baby nursery at her church. She was a great person. Laura was a great person. Petty Officer Second Class Chris Will, who was 29. He's from Warren, Michigan. His wife, Victoria, and children, Brittany and Bryce. He was a rescue swimmer. He enjoyed fishing, riding motorcycles, and playing poker with his buddies, and he was a fan of the TV show Heroes. This is from an article about them from the Union Tribune. And so in the chat here, Kilo, thank you for your comment. And Dennis Dillinger says she made cookies and brought them to the maintenance control ops so we'd have them a few days out. Yeah, she was a very special person. Somebody I'll always remember. And I think the last call that Hilo made, the last radio call was Mayday, and it says, the article, which I need to reference here to make sure my memory's correct, says it was 9 seconds after the call Mayday was made that the helo went down. And as far as I can tell, as far as I remember, the cause of the crash was never officially declared as what they were sure it was. Yet Corey's married an NFL cheerleader. She had moved down to cheer for the Chargers after they got married, and she continued to do so and advocate for veterans after his death. It hit us all extremely hard. Us was being Det 2, and the guys, the sailors out at Det 3 went on that deployment. Went on that deployment with another aircraft with a crew came to backfill those that were lost, and they went and did their mission. And I've talked on this show before. I talked about this show before that I've spent time in my life questioning. I think it's natural. You question why. We do these things in the military that lead to so many people killed in mishaps. A big one last year was the Marine assault vehicle that sunk last year, and those Marines drowned inside. And we do these things in training, and the mission, I believe that day, was training / vert rep for that Det 3 was doing. And you wonder if, why did people have to lose their lives on something like that? And what I've said on the show before, and what I hope I can find the words for now, is, excuse me. Is every successful mission is thanks to the failed ones. Every successful mission is thanks to the failed ones in the military. Every successful mission owes its success to those who failed, to those who died in mishaps, to those who have written these lessons in blood, right? In naval aviation, there's a saying that the NAMP, or the Naval Aviation Maintenance Program, is written in blood. It's written in blood because we learn so much from these incidents. I don't know. And every training mission, every research and development mission, every critical mishap, Class A mishap that we've had that has been like this has taught us something, and we've learned something. And I guess what I'll say is this particular crash for me impacted my life in such a huge way, because as a junior maintainer, sailor, and I think I can speak, for other people that we served with at 23, it changed the responsibility that we felt for our job. It really put the weight of what we did as maintainers in our minds in a way that, maybe isn't possible any other way. And there's I'm not trying to say that there's any bright side or anything positive that, I would give back so many things that I learned from. I would give back everything I could say I learned from that to have those people back in an instant, obviously. But if it didn't happen to them, maybe it would have happened to us, If it didn't happen to them, maybe it would have happened down the road at HSC 23. If it didn't happen, we don't know what could have happened in the future. There's no way to know. It's an immeasurable thing, but it's important to remember that you only fail if you don't learn. Have you ever heard that? If you only fail if you don't learn from your mistake. It's only a failure if you don't learn from it. So there were a lot of things learned from this. There were a lot of things learned from this personally for me. And that's I guess one of my big takeaways from this is you only fail if you don't learn. Every success is just a culmination of failures. And every successful mission in the military is thanks to the failures. Every successful flight is thanks to the crashes. Every successful mission executed is thanks to the ones that, ended in catastrophe. And it's just part of the military. It's just part of the military life and the way that we train and the way that we live. And this was a tough one. This was a tough one for me, and this was a tough one for a lot of people, especially thinking about, Laura and Corey, and kind of how things went down with them. I think about it all the time. I think about it a lot more than just on this day. It's in my heart and mind a lot. And if you are a person who prays, if you're a spiritual person, I would just ask for your prayers for the family and for those who were killed that day, who I'm trying to remember today on the anniversary. And I'll do this again next year, and I'll do this for as long as I'm doing the show and talk about that incident, what happened. But that's the story of Bullet 10, HSC 23, Det 3. And, the memory of that and the legacy of that, I'm sure lives on to this day at that squadron. I haven't been there in many years, but I'm sure that the legacy of that aircraft, Bullet 10, lives on there. And I think it will always, for as long as that squadron exists. And that's my shared with many other people experience of losing a crew in a helo crash, which is it was devastating. It was devastating. So I hope that you guys got something out of that, and I was able to shed some light on that. So, that incident and why it's so important to me, and why it's important to remember this, that happened, and raise some awareness about it in some way. So I think that pretty much sums up what I was going to say about it. We finished our deployment in Det 2. Det 3 did their deployment. We went back, and that squadron still rotating deployments out. Currently, they got deployments out right now. One I just saw on Instagram, Det's about to go out. Det 2 is about to go out in January, just like we did 14 years ago, here in about a week. And the machine keeps going. And so, yeah. So, okay. So that's pretty much my story about HSC 23 and Det3's Bullet 10 there. Zaquan says, I feel away for the loss, especially the one that didn't live with his wife. We've got mishaps in Army 2. My first tank rolled over and killed the TC before I got to the unit. Sorry to hear that, Kilo. Accidental shootings or NDs are high also, fratricide. Justin and Dillinger, yeah. Thank you guys for being here. I know between the three of us, we lived through a lot of that together, and it was a very, very, very important moment in my life, an important moment in the life of a lot of people, and kind of shaped who I am today and who I became as a sailor. And I want to thank you, Roman, for your leadership and steadfast resolve throughout all of this and the entire time that I knew you in the Navy. Your guidance and leadership means a lot to me, as well as I know countless other sailors. And Justin, you continuing to get into helicopters every day, multiple times a day. I remember one night you donning your rescue swimmer gear for maybe having to go rescue somebody, a down pilot in the water. I don't know if you remember that, getting spun up for that. We didn't end up going, but I remember just watching you in the helo, getting ready to go do your job, and being willing to put yourself at great risk to go do your job. That stuff stays with me. And I hope that in my Navy career, I was able to do a good job for the Navy and for the United States in my execution of my duties as a sailor going forward, my deployments that I did after that, and my working on helicopters after that. Okay, that's it, guys. We've been going for a little over an hour now, and I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode. I'm going to sign out and let you guys get going with what you got going on. As always, thank you for being here. It means a lot to me. Every way that you can possibly support the channel, send the links in the description down below. But one of the main ways would just be sharing the channel with friends and people who might enjoy it. With that being said, I look forward to talking to you guys tomorrow. And we got a couple more episodes this week. And until then, I am out for now.